Hey guys, this is Nick here. I'm going to talk about what happens when I get to the gig. I got my instruments and I have my sax here, and I'm going to do a typical sax setup as if I were just to get to the gig. And we're going to talk about some intricate parts about getting the sax set up. So first of all, we're going to start with the case. I have my case here, and then we're going to make sure to unlatch the case. Make sure the case is facing the right way up. You know, you don't want to open it, which has happened before, where you open the case and it's upside down and all this stuff falls out. But in this case, I can see the logo here, so I'm going to pop the case open and make sure both latches are off. Pop the case open. Make sure you're on a sturdy surface, not like this, but something a little more sturdy. So here's the sax. It's in good condition. Things weren't running or bouncing around. That's another important thing. When you have a case, make sure that the contents or whatever you put in there doesn't bounce around. Sometimes you open the case and the neck will be bouncing around here. If that happens, I would just avoid using any kind of compartment here and begin to store like your neck in a different, maybe like a little pouch or something. You're going to just have to make it up. A lot of times these compartments don't work as well as they're designed. Sometimes they fall out and things roll around the horn. So here it is. Typically, I'll get my neck out. I'm just going to put that right there. I have this cool, nifty little stand by K&M, and I've had this for years. I've actually bought two of these already. One of them I left on top of a car during a gig on the way to a gig, and that one ended up on a freeway, the 101 freeway in LA. But here's the number two, and I'll set that guy up. I'll put it close to where I'm setting up. Now, in here, you see this funny looking thing, right? It looks like a big ear swab. That's not what it is. Anyways, or big pipe cleaner. It's kind of essentially the same thing. This goes inside the horn, and what it does is it just absorbs any of the moisture that might be left in the horn. So I'll use this, and I'll throw that right there, and I'll put the sax down right here. And see, the stand's pretty good. You always want to make sure you want to have a good stand. If you have a stand where it's kind of like falling off, it's happened to everybody that's played sax for a while, that your sax will fall off the stand if you don't put it on there right. But this, I found that this stand is really good. Neck strap, okay. And I have this nifty ProTech neck strap, and it kind of has this little bar in between to kind of, it's more ergonomic, you know. And I usually have mine pretty high. I'll get the neck strap on. I got the sax out, and got my neck over here. I have my mouthpiece, Theo Wani, and or Theo Wayne, however you say it. And this is very important. When you're taking your mouthpiece out, you don't want to drop this puppy, because if you drop it one time, you could be looking at some major damage, tip damage. You just got to be very careful. This is a very delicate piece to your instrument. So I'm just going to set this baby right here, okay. And then I have a couple reeds, and I'm going to go over that setup. It has this nifty pouch, so I'm going to put the pouch right there. And I know that this reed, I don't like that reed. And the one I was playing on, I have it marked pretty much. I don't remember if it was this. I think it was this guy right here. This is the last reed that I was using. And the reeds that I used plastic cover Rico roll. These are tenor. This is actually tenor box, but I use size 3 reed. Okay. The other thing you can also do when you finish playing is I have this little swab, this little mouthpiece swab, and you just run it to the mouthpiece to kind of get any residue that stayed in the mouthpiece. So there's a couple little nifty little things there. I also have, if you have a brand new saxophone, chances are you need a Cork Grease. Okay, this Cork Grease it's on its last leg here, but I still got a little Cork Grease in there. It looks like a little chapstick. I don't know if you want to use this as chapstick. I've never done that before. So I'm gonna put that guy in here, and we're just gonna, with my finger, a little dab will do ya. Okay, and I'll just run it over the cork of the neck. That way I'm not struggling to put the mouthpiece in, especially when you have a new mouthpiece, a new cork, Everything's new, and it's so hard to get things to work right. So, and you see, it's kind of just slides in. This mouthpiece, I have to make sure that the ligature is very tight all the way. The plate is touching the mouthpiece, so I'm not damaging anything. Okay, and I kind of already have where my tuning is, and I can see the mark that I have. Usually, when I'm going through a lot of reeds, I'll put a mark with a pin, and my cork will get pretty marked up, but it'll last about a month and a half or 2 months, however long the reed lasts. I know cases of people use reeds for 6 months, and it just depends on the player and how often you play, and not to damage the reed, you know. So here's my reed, and what I would do normally is I'll moisten the reed, and by that I'll pop it in, do a little spit shine, okay. And you might say, "Ooh, it's gross." No, this is actually what you have to go through to get this going. And the reason you moisten the reed is because sometimes you'll get it out, and it might even be warped at the tip. And this is part of nature. This is a part of the world. This is actually a slice of bamboo. So I've seen some people, wet the back end and the front end right there, and what it is it's soaking up the moisture. And the reason I like these plastic covers is because I don't like to play too much with the reed. I get to the gig and they're ready to go most of the time. This one's got very, very little warpage, and I'll just a little trick that I learned, I'll press it on the back of the mouthpiece right here to kind of just straighten it out, and then I'll pop it on. It doesn't take too much for these reeds to get going. I'll do another video later on reed preparation, but let's just talk about just kind of the setup. So this is a kind of a different mouthpiece, so it's got a different kind of mechanism here at the bottom, but I'll make sure that my reed is a little bit, tiny bit in from the tip. When I press down, I want it to just be a sliver, just a little bit of the tip showing of the mouthpiece, and the reed to be on the inner part of that rim. Okay, and I want to make sure that also the rails lined up, so there's straight lines, and my reed is not all the way to the left side or to the right side, and that just allows for just better vibration. Okay, once I have it pretty lined up here, straight edge here, I'll tighten it down. Okay, just kind of eyeing it and feeling and looking that it's a pretty good distance, and I'll run my finger across the tip just to kind of feel that if it's not going over, and then I'll press down. It's good. After you do it a bunch of times, you'll get the gist of it, and you might wonder how do these people sound the same always? They have the same sound. Well, this is part of it. You get used to doing your setup, and you just kind of leave it like that. Another quick tip: when your reed is failing you and it's kind of like on its last leg, one thing you might do is you might push the reed out a little bit from the mouthpiece. You might get a little bit more life out of that reed. Okay, so I have the sax. I'll pick up the sax right here. Okay, and I'll hold it right here, and then I'll just pop the neck on there. You notice I have my hand over the octave key. Careful not to damage the octave key, but as carefully as you can. This you could even put an oil right here on the neck receiver and the neck. That way you're not damaging anything, because it's been my experience that if you move the octave key, it can damage it and you'll bend it. Right? This is all metal, and metal is what they call malleable, so it can be moved, or it can be bent a certain way. If you bend it the wrong way, the octave will not close properly, and you'll immediately notice that there's something wrong with your saxophone. Okay, I recommend the kind of strap that has a closed hook, and this one has like a spring-loaded mechanism here. I recommend that because sometimes I've seen a lot of pros, they just have that open hook. I mean, after a while you're good, but me, Knowing how I am and knowing myself, I like to close hook. So I'll hook that baby in, and I'll just kind of just do a test on all the keys, make sure there's no pads sticking. Usually I have a G sharp that is sticky, but this one's good. I had a D sharp that was sticking right now. I don't know if you saw that. Touch the tip, and I'll just make sure I'm lined up here. Octave key is working. Now there's a top screw here. I'll make sure that that screw's tightened. Okay, just hand tight. And I'll blow my first notes on it. Probably just start with the C sharp and go from there. Everything looks good, fine. Okay, and then we talked about embouchure earlier. I have kind of a more of a cushion embouchure where it's a little bit more out than in, and that's just the way that I feel comfortable playing. So let's just get ready, take a deep breath, and we play our first note. It sounds good to me. And we'll continue to warm up. When I first get to a gig, I'll do a couple notes, I'll do a couple scales. Make sure the reed, I'm making sure that the reed gets moisture and it feels that it's able to respond all around.